Welcome to Creekside Chats with Successful Real Estate Investors, brought to you by Steet Capital, promoting prosperity and harmony to help you flourish in all areas of life. Join in as we explore the motivations and goals of real estate investors and how their ability to invest abundantly has provided them with the time and freedom to contribute to the world in a creative and thoughtful way. Now please welcome your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with Successful Multifamily Real Estate Investors. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest is passionate about helping high-paid professionals who are making good income by trading their time to have their money work for them and create passive streams of income. He believes that it should be easy and available to anyone who would like to learn the art of investing outside of Wall Street. After working 14 years in the financial tech industry, he quit his day job to help educate the high-paid professionals about opportunities outside the world of the volatile paper products. He hosts the popular podcast, Gold Collar Investor. Welcome back to the show, Pancham Gupta.
Thank you, Alan, for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you back on the show, Pancham. We had a very interesting conversation a couple of months ago, and I'm interested in learning more about you. Particularly, I'd like to find out what it was like the day that you left your secure job on Wall Street after 14 years of working there. Tell us about that day and that transitional period.
Absolutely. That day I remember very distinctly. It's celebrated all over the country, not just by me. It's July 4th, the Independence Day. July 3rd was my last day at my W-2 job, and just happens to happen that way. It's nothing that I planned. It just couldn't be planned better. I remember that day I woke up, everyone was celebrating. We had firecrackers, just burning firecrackers with kid and all that stuff. The morning after that, I woke up, which was a Monday, like the weekend after that. I remember very clearly that, oh, I don't have to go to work. Now what? Even though I was planning about this, still it hits you and you have to become very disciplined very quickly. You know how your day goes by if you don't have a set schedule. Like if I was going to a W-2 job, I had a set schedule. I have to take a train to New York City. Then I have this calendar in front of me when I used to go to work where I have meetings scheduled, days planned, everything is by time. And now none of that is there. No one is controlling your schedule. You are the one who's utterly, fully responsible for everything that's happening to you. I would say a learning curve. I'm still learning how to manage my time better, but I had to get disciplined very quickly. That's one big change. The other change obviously was that to get the mindset around growing the business and doing the things that really matter versus doing the things that can get you bogged down into nitty minutia of throughout the day, and they are really not helping your business in any way. Like the ROI is very low. For example, editing your podcast. I basically outsourced all of that since then, and I'm trying to focus only on the things that are truly important for the business and for me personally. And still it's not easy because some of these things are not cheap. They come at some cost, but then you have to put in perspective your personal time, which you can value it however you want. Let's say $250 an hour. So if you're spending less than that on any task, or the ROI is less than that, you're really outsourcing it. So that was another thing. I don't know if I answered your question.
That does answer my question. How long ago was that?
It's been a little over a year.
Talk to us about the high points in your life now as compared to the W-2 time.
The high points, I can break it down into two sections. One is the pre-COVID and then post-COVID. Pre-COVID, I'll tell you that I was feeling really the high points of the day, not the day, like in general, quitting the W-2 job, was that I was controlling my own time. Like I was able to take whatever I want to do during the day and put it in my schedule and schedule my day that way. So for example, spending time with the kids in the morning when they're going to school or coming back home at the time when they're coming back from school. So being able to spend time with them when it really mattered the most, and then scheduling my day around that. All of that, I was so basically really controlling my schedule. But after COVID, everyone, my kids are home, my wife is home, and I'm home. All of that, again, I had to learn. I think the entire world had to learn how to do things after post-COVID. I had to rejuggle my schedule again. And I would say the high points after that like after COVID was mainly really spending quality time and also really realizing what are the things that really matter the most, as opposed to really running around through your day and getting the stuff done and just working.
When you're working for yourself, even though your time is supposed to be your time, the business can really take over if you don't set the appropriate boundaries. How did you come to a point in place where you were able to say, I've got to set some boundaries, or this is just going to take over my life?
Still learning. It's been a year, but I will tell you that I have, before I quit my job, I was working after hours, late nights and weekends to really get the work done, because obviously I had a day job and I was working there when during the daytime. After I quit my job, I had to work hard to define boundaries around, okay, you know what, after a certain time, this is my time, or this is time to spend with the family, and I want to make sure that the business doesn't take over. I'm working on the business versus I'm working in the business. So that boundary, it's actually really hard to draw and follow, but I'm trying. I think I don't have a good answer for you there. You just have to learn and keep at it and make sure everything is, you're outsourcing things that you're not really supposed to do. Like we have systematized a lot of things. For example, we've hired executives. I've hired many assistants at this point who are taking care of different parts of the business, which are important, but they don't have to be done by me or my partner.
Yes, one of my guests, Josh Patrick, is quite a veteran in the world of business. He is a coach and trainer. He's been doing this for some 40 years. He said that it is a myth that you can have a balance between your life and your business. He said some days you can work 16 hours, some days maybe it's 4 hours, but there's always going to be that tension between your life and your business. You have to be able to have that flexibility in order to be as successful as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, no, would not disagree with that. 40 years. Wow, that's a long time. So it's been a year and I'm feeling it.
What are the big downsides in leaving the W-2 and becoming the entrepreneur?
Downside, that's a great question. Everyone looks at the upside, which is a good thing to say or look at. The downside is you don't have the certainty of the income that you had before, which is a very general downside. You have to, like, until you're established, you have to have a plan B or mitigation strategy in case the business doesn't take off for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. What are you going to do? You have to have that plan in place from the get-go. I did have that plan. I did think of this, and obviously it's been exactly like little over a year since I've quit, and it's not at a point where I thought it would be after a year when I actually initially quit. It is growing, but it's not growing at the pace which I had thought. One big downside is that with the paycheck, you can really plan things out and you have that certainty, but and security and safety, all that. None of that is there with business. And second is so whatever is the positive, that can also be looked at as negative. For example, you have the control of your own time, right? You can manage your schedule, right? So you can do whatever you want because now you're your own boss. But that can be a huge negative too, because if you're not disciplined, then how the days go by, you wouldn't know it. With the pandemic situation, COVID-19 situation, many people who have been sitting home and working from home and may have realized this, that the day goes by so quick, like it just soon it's like evening time. And yeah, so I think those are two big, I would say, downsides. And you have to have a very strong willpower to sustain any setbacks if you get along the way.
That has truly been my experience. The days go by so rapidly, and the to-do list doesn't ever seem to get any smaller. Suppose you could do this all over again. What would you do differently? Or would you even do it again?
So if I'm assuming you mean quitting the job. So if I were to do it all over again, I would have done it much sooner. That's what I would say. So it's been only a year. I wish I had done it 5 years ago, or I wish I had done it 10 years ago. That's what I would say that I would really change. And the other thing usually say that I would do differently is that, as far as this is from the business point of view, is that I would have gotten into this business of real estate investing and all that by doing a house hacking when I graduated out of college. When went into my first job, I wish I had the wisdom to actually take an action at that point and really do a house hack. And so that's another thing I would change, that I would do that differently.
What is it that held you back rather than going into this 5 years ago?
I would say that I wasn't enlightened enough, or I had my own fears that I had to overcome. Let me put it that way. And it was not very clear to me that which direction I want to take my life in. It was very clear to me that this is a W-2 job is something that I'm not going to do forever. And it was very clear to me that I would have some kind of business that I would be doing, but it wasn't clear to me that it would be this real estate investing and doing syndications. That would be the path that I would take. I had the inclination towards this, but it wasn't very clear. It's only a little later it became clear, and still after it became clear, it took me 2 years to get out. And the reason is, again, I had to battle against my own mindset, against that same fear of losing the secure, safe and secure job with a very high paycheck. I had to battle myself, I had to battle family members, all that. So it wasn't easy.
Those personal fears are often what hold many of us back, as well as the fact that it does take some knowledge and information. What are 3 words of wisdom that you would give to anyone who is considering going into real estate syndication?
Into real estate syndication, I would say number one thing is that educate yourself. You really understand the at least terminology around the business. I spent a lot of time, and there are many ways to do this. This is my personal opinion, that the right way to approach would be to have spend some time, learn about the business completely. I did it using reading through books and listening to podcasts and really investing also passively in few deals. I did it only in one deal, but still you can invest passively with other people who have done it before. So number one is educate yourself, and then just go take action. There's no other way to do this. You're going to make mistakes. Everyone who even has like coaches and people helping them out, and still people make mistakes. And the best teacher is the experience. And it's only after you do it, you would learn.
Suppose for a moment that you had $5 million just granted to you free and clear, no strings attached. What are 5 things that you would do with that $5 million?
That's a great question. So I usually try to follow Brian Tracy's rule, and he says that there are different formulas. For every amount of income you make, you do certain percentage to in your own personal development, certain percentage to charity, and certain percentage into your business and all that. So I would say that I would dedicate about 10% of that to different charities, and 10% of that amount to further my personal development, or myself or my family, like kids or my wife, anyone who would need personal development side of things. And there are so many things I'm working on my personal development side, so I would really dedicate that much for that. And then I would say for another 10% is something that I would actually give that to my kids to do something and come up with ideas and invest, like really their own personal education, so to speak. And then I would say whatever is left over, which is 70%, almost 80% of that 70%, I would invest in the business, and then put rest for the future. Okay, invest it and keep it in a liquid form in one way or the another. That's what I would do.
Sounds like some sound decisions, particularly given it's just on the spur of the moment.
Yeah, it's a great question. Caught me thinking, but this is something that I would do.
Looking back on the last year, what is the high point and what is the low point?
The high point there are many high points of the last year. 2019 has been a really special year in general for me. So number one high point was quitting the job. Number two was launching my podcast, which was launched towards the end of last year. And number three, I would say, was the closing biggest deal of my syndication career. So that was the high point number 3. And so those are the high points. And the low points for last year, 2019, I have to give it a thought, but I would say if I have to really think, one low point was, and that was also instrumental in not accelerating, but really making my mindset even more clear that I need to quit my job, was passing away of my one of the very early mentors in the company where I was working. So she was only, I think, 45 or 47, and at a very young age she passed away. And she was very hardworking. She gave every minute of her life to the company, very dedicated. And when she passed away, it was a big shock to many people, including myself in the company and her family. And it was actually very sad. Like, she was having lunch at work with someone and she just collapsed on the chair. And later on, she was taken to the hospital, and in 2 days she passed away. And so it was extremely sad. And that was one very low point. And it really made me feel that, like, she gave her entire career and time to this company, and I don't know how much time she really had for herself. Maybe this was something that she wanted to do, so it was all good, but made me realize that what quitting and doing, life is short. Really spend time on things that you want to do, not like later, or plan something that you would do in certain amount of time. Yeah, that was a low point.
Pancham, it has been a pleasure being with you today. Before we go, tell our viewers and listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. My email is p@thegoldcollarinvestor.com. That's the name of my podcast. Again, the email is p as in Paul @thegoldcollarinvestor.com. They can also download a free report which I've written for which goes into 6 reasons why to diversify outside of Wall Street. And it's available on the website, which is thegoldcollarinvestor.com/download.
Thank you so much for being on the program today. As always, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Alan, for having me.
Thank you for joining us on Creekside Chats with Successful Real Estate Investors, brought to you by Steet Capital. For more information, as well as access to our free ebook on enhancing your well-being through real estate investing, be sure to connect with us at steedtalker.com. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steet Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine and enhance the humane treatment of horses worldwide. Steet Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. Connect with us at steedtalker.com.